Welcome, everyone, to the Thursday night Dynasty Heat Seekers live show. I'm your host, Bryce Frazier, and I'm joined by Dan Chung, known as Demo. Demo, how are we doing today?
Good, man. Just finished up our first draft, and everyone's have rookie fever. Now it's creating a lot of action in our dynasty league, so I'm excited.
Right. We were talking a lot before the stream today about like some of the rookie fever and all these drafts and how like how crazy it is in some of these leagues. Tell the people what you're telling me what happened in a one quarterback
Oh yeah.
league today.
So the one quarterback league, I have the one just to set it up. I have the 1-4. So in my mind, I'm thinking there's gonna be some combination of Bijan, Gibbs, and JSN going top three. So I'm stuck with Flowers, Addison, Quentin Johnson, which is fine. And I was trying to trade out of that position because they're close enough that maybe I can pick up value. So I made an offer to the 101. I offered the 1-4. I offered 2024 first and Deontay Johnson, just kind of just throwing in a piece that he kind of needs. The guy rejected it outright, and I was like, okay, that's fine. I get it. He wants Bijan. The draft time rolls around, and this guy goes, what should I do? What should I do? He goes Anthony Richardson, number one overall in the one quarterback league. And our league just went apeshit, right? They just went nuts because it was like, how can anyone draft anyone over Bijan Robinson, especially in a one quarterback league? So he got a lot of flack for it. Did you think this was super flex? Is this redraft? Are you trying to corner the market on all the QBs? What are you doing? Just ripping into him. Worked out kind of good for me in that the 1-4 was going to be Addison, Flowers, Quinn Johnson. I ended up with JSN, so that was really cool. I was really excited about that. I mean, I probably would have been happy if he accepted the trade and I got Bijan, but I didn't have to give up anything and landed JSN, so I was excited. Another cool thing that happened in the draft was at some point I had the 3.2. Jaden Reed was still there, and I was thinking about grabbing Jaden Reed. He fell. I felt like probably you can grab him at the end of the second, mid to late second. He fell to me at 3.2, and I was about to grab him, and some guy offered me 3.8 and Jamal Williams. So I'm not a big Jamal Williams fan, but like six spots in the third round, I'll fall back if you'll give me Jamal Williams. I had picked up Kendra Miller earlier too, so I was like, why not? So it worked out, and then at the 3.8, instead of Jaden Reed, I ended up getting Booty. So I was fine with that too. They're all kind of. He's
Yeah.
definitely more of a dart throw. I know you're a big fan. I'm coming around on the Booty.
Yeah, I like him better than Jaden Reed, but that might be biased.
I mean, Reed, I just don't know enough about. I think he kind of popped up on everyone's radar at the draft and just kind of surprised everyone going in the second round. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe the Packers know something we don't know. But I was excited. It turned out well. And yeah, I mean, if I was telling other people too, if you're in the draft and you have time to make trades, trading down, it's pretty good. You'll get good value. People are looking for it. So that's one option too.
Yeah, which was mind-boggling that the guy that had the 101 in a non-superflex league took Richardson when he could have easily traded out and got a way more draft capital. Like in a super flex, okay, I can get it. Like there's some people that have Richardson like really, really high, and he does have Jalen Hurts like potential when it comes to fantasy value. But in a one QB, it's like, I mean, Andy was forewarned. Like I think people listening should know, like he was forewarned by, I think you said the commit or another buddy in the league or the commissioner, somebody. He told him prior to the draft, like, don't take Anthony Richardson first. That's like not a good. You'll get him later or trade out and get him or something. But he took him, and that's he was warned. So you can't complain that you took advantage of something that's new, especially when he's given all the advice and all this kind that's on fantasy football and all these dynasty format leagues. Like you could have easily saw that was just not a very wise pick to make in the sense of like what more you could have got out of it. Like sure, like Anthony Richardson could go nuts this year and be QB1 in theory, right? But it still doesn't make that pick good because he could have gotten that at the end of the first and got next year first or something, so
absolutely.
That's what I always argue with people, like and that's the real NFL too. Like, why are these teams reaching on players when they could have got them later and added something else or whatever? Like, it doesn't make the pick necessarily good just because you took them that early when you still could have got them later or something or traded back for them. So, but today we're going to talk about some sleepers. I think this is always a fun topic because I feel like there's a lot of different definitions for sleepers. And I think the more simple one that I think, according to the guys we have on this list, we're not looking at guys that like are potentially going to be number one players on your roster. These are guys that can contribute to like maybe your second running back, second wide receiver, your flex spot, your second quarterback. And they're guys that you can buy relatively cheap. Like their price right now doesn't maybe not may not go any lower. I mean, it could, but even then, like they're so cheap right now in comparison to what maybe they once were at one point in their career, that it just makes sense to buy them right now or get them. Like some of these guys, I feel like on the list, you can get thrown into trades.
Yeah.
And if you can get players that get thrown into trades that become then startable assets on your lineup, then, more power to you. So let's just jump right into it. So we'll start with quarterbacks first. So go ahead and tell me your first quarterback that you have as a sleeper this year.
Sleeper, kind of fitting that definition of just kind of they're at the bottom and things like that in terms of a sleeper. I picked Russell Wilson. He was obviously a well-known name and could produce really well, but had a really down year with Denver last year. Just with the coaching change, with coaches out, the offensive line issue, just tons of injuries on the wide receiver side, and didn't seem to click really well personality-wise with the team. I think a lot of people wrote off Russell Wilson, so he's kind of like, in my sense, he's a sleeper, right? People have kind of forgotten about him. He's lying low, but there's a good chance that he can bounce back next year. So I kind of like him in that spot. With new offense, they got one more weapon in Marvin Mims, but obviously the big addition was Sean Payton, and a really good coach compared to Nathaniel Hackett. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Russ can do in his second year with the Broncos. So he's one of my sleepers at the quarterback position.
Yeah, I like this one, and I really, honestly, he was like a guy I debated on putting here because, in super flex leagues, you're not just going to get a quarterback thrown into a deal like I just mentioned. Like quarterbacks are still like pretty valuable assets, but his price right now is lower than it's ever been. Right, like now and even middle of last season, it's probably the lowest it's ever been. And I think he can put it together. I think bringing in Sean Payton is going to be a huge help. He needs his wide receivers to stay healthy. It doesn't help when Cortland Sutton gets hurt consistently, along with Jerry Jeudy. Javonte Williams, a breakout candidate last year, also got hurt, kind of made the run game a little bit crappier. And Russ has relied on a run game in most of his career, especially with the Seahawks. They always say let him cook, but it seems like maybe he should have that run game cook up a little bit first for him to open it up, because I think he's extremely talented still, and hopefully that things get put together, because it seemed like at the beginning of the year, even to the middle, like it seemed like things internally weren't working, and we were hearing some terrible things. Nathaniel Hackett ended up getting fired, and even Russ apologized. Like, I wish I would have done better for him. I thought that was a good thing to say on his part. And it seemed like there were reports that he was starting to get that locker room back together a little bit, or at least on his side, because he kind of put his body on the line a little bit with in that game against Kansas City. I think he played really well. Looked like vintage Russ in that game, and then like he went to go run in for a touchdown and dove and got hit and hurt. And I think he gained a lot of, he did take a hit to the head, which is you never want to see a quarterback do. But I think that hit almost benefited him with that team, because I think it did gain a little bit of respect from his teammates. So I like Russ a lot as a breakout candidate. I think he could be a very valuable quarterback 2 asset this upcoming season. And you mentioned Sean Payton being there. And one of the guys on my list, I also think that bringing a coaching staff member can help more than sometimes bringing in a player. I got Mac Jones on my list here. Seems like a homer pick. Seems like a homer pick, obviously, because I'm a Patriot fan. But now we're bringing back Bill O'Brien, who was once the Patriots offensive coordinator. Bill O'Brien was also the offensive coordinator at Alabama when Mac Jones was there. So there's probably nobody that knows maybe his skill set better when it comes to what he's able to do. The Patriots really didn't make a ton, they didn't make any like huge splashes in free agency. They did bring Juju Smith-Schuster. They lost Jacoby Myers, so I'm not sure how big of a increase that is in talent. But I think Mike Gesicki coming in also helps, because he was also highly recruited to Penn State when Bill O'Brien was there. So Bill O'Brien really likes Mike Gesicki. He has experience with Mac Jones. I think you can get him super cheap right now, because this is a make it or break it year for Mac. If he doesn't play well this year, like, his career in New England could definitely be over, and he could end up being like a backup quarterback or some sort of transitional quarterback for teams for years to come. So he's playing for a career this upcoming season. I feel like players usually step it up at that point, and hopefully this new offensive coordinator could get things going. Are you buying into any Mac Jones this season?
Yeah, I like him. I'm not too sold on him, just because the Patriots offense with the quarterback position never really produced that much points. I think Brady had great years, obviously, but afterwards, it's kind of been up and down with Cam and whatnot. I do think it is kind of like his make or break it year, and I'm glad that they did pick up Bill O'Brien, because with the history in Alabama, there's gonna be no one that knows his skill set better, and so they really can give it the opportunity to really utilize and maximize Mac Jones's abilities this year. They got him a couple weapons in Juju and Gesicki, like you mentioned. So we'll see. And we got Tyquan Thornton coming in second year. I'm kind of curious to see how they all put it together and see if Mac Jones can hold on to the job or if he's going to get zapped or something. Because I liked Bailey Zapp when he was in a couple of those games last year.
He had a couple of good throws on broken coverage, but
Yeah.
I don't know about Bailey Zappi or whatever his name is. We actually have a question here that kind of pertains to our topic. So Infinite Possibility says, I'm in a 1 QB 16 team 53 man roster dynasty league. Well, that's deep. I guess I would guess that there might be some IDP players in this. If not, that's a lot of bench players. I traded back and now have picked 32, 42, 43, 51, 56, and 60. Do you have any sleepers that far down the line? And I was thinking, I don't even know what caliber players would be there because I don't think any of the players that we have on our list would probably be down that far. He says, I think I may end up with Zach Evans at 216 and traded the 114 for Cam Akers. I think that's a really good one. And 2/3. So I'm trying to hedge my bet. Cam is my best running back. So Infinite Possibilities. I guess I would ask, like, what caliber players are you usually seeing that far down? Like, are there any guys that maybe come to mind right up for you that would be down that far in a dynasty league?
So I'm thinking I'm not in many 16-man leagues, but I'm in one quarterback leagues with 12 teams. So 32 is what? 24, 8, 2, 8, 3. It'll be like the 3-8, somewhere around there. 3-8 and on. It gets really rough, right? That's when and especially in this year, you're looking at
Rookies,
the day 3, day 4 rookies, undrafted free agents. I got a 3.8 in my recent 1 QB, and that was Kayshon Boutte. So that was pretty nice. I think it might have gone a little earlier, but it kind of slid a little bit. So you're looking at Kayshon Boutte, you're looking at Tank Dell, you're looking at just kind of these fringe wide receivers, really outside the scope of what you would normally want to start. It's a real hard. It's hard to say which sleepers you need. I'm happy to maybe I can follow up with like a comment and kind of share the picks that we had, and I can kind of share what fell in that 32 range and some of the picks that I liked there. Something that I just have to kind of go back and look at. But there are some you can't have huge hopes for them. I mean, it's a dart throw for sure. Even less of a dart throw than it has been in previous years. But I'll be happy to share some of those names. But
Kayshon Boutte would definitely be near the top of my list in that range. I mean, other rookies, like I tried to get out, like once it gets to the third round, I try and get rid of all my picks. Like if it means I got to move up like 4 spots in the third round, I'll give all my 4th and 5th rounders away just to get in there. Chase Brown is a good. I mean, he named some guys in here: Boutte, Chase Brown, Chris Rock, Deuce Vaughn. I'm steering clear of Deuce Vaughn personally, and Sean Tucker, Chris Rodriguez. Not really big fans of either of those guys, but I do like Boutte. I do like. I said I'm staying away from Sean Tucker, Chris Rodriguez, and Deuce Vaughn. So I like Chase Brown, Kayshon Boutte, and Zach Evans. I like those 3 guys.
That's actually I ended up with 3-7 with Chase Brown, 3-8 with Boutte, and then I think Zach Evans winning our 4th round. Those are the 3 I kind of like. I really like Chase Brown a lot. I think he's really good. He has really good work ethic. Put up good numbers at Illinois. He's occupying a spot right behind Joe Mixon. There's no Samaje Perine. There's Travion Williams. There's a real good opportunity for him to really get an opportunity to get some carries with Bengals, depending on what happens with Mixon. So that's why I kind of like him more than all those other guys. Boutte, like we talked about, he has a talent. Will he put in his work ethic? Will he get his head on straight and really do well? He can. So I went back and saw some of his college highlights. It looked pretty good. It'd be cool if he recapture some of that. He lost some of his injuries, but if he can come back strong, he'd be pretty good still for the Patriots. And then Zach Evans. So the Rams always, I think he went to the Rams. The Rams always pick up running backs, and they always try to find a way to see who they want to run. They never were committal to Cam Akers even last year, even though he was a pretty high draft pick. So, they're always shaking things up with the Rams. There's always opportunity that you can get run. So Zach Evans is a good one too. I was out on Deuce Vaughn mostly because of his size. I can't deal with the running backs that are like 185, under 190 and kind of smaller. It ends up being like, you got to be really talented. You got to be like Danny Woodhead, even Austin Eckler kind of built, but you got to be really good to really shine. So I don't
Yeah,
see
and
him
that's your
produce.
ceiling, right?
So
Like your ceiling is Darren Sproles, right? I mean,
yeah,
that's sure, Darren Sproles was a good fantasy asset. He was a good guy to plug in your flex spot, occasionally. But I would rather take a dart throw on a guy that has a potential to be like a more of like an every down back. So I'd rather have Chris Rodriguez. I mean, Deuce Vaughn's like one of the guys I'm like avoiding like the plague. There's just so many other guys I'd rather have over him because he just doesn't have feature back potential. It's just not big enough, and that's. So,
and
all
a
right,
lot of
we'll get
the yeah,
good.
and a lot of the sleeper opportunity at this position comes down to just opportunity, right? Because talent, it's been evaluated to death at this point, and there's a reason that they kind of fell based off of talent. So I like the opportunity, looking at opportunity more in the later rounds, because you do want to hit it out of the park, and opportunity gives you the best chance. I think trying to pick up slightly better talent than others in that third, fourth round just won't get you much. So that's kind of what I'm
Right.
thinking.
Get the guys that got the chance to get on the field outside the first 2 rounds, in my opinion. All right, we'll get back on track. So we've talked about Mac and Russell Wilson. So your other quarterback.
Other quarterback is Kenny Pickett. So I think he's due for, he had a up and down first season. He was his freshman year, first year, came in, I think, during the fourth game or so. So he didn't get like all the original first reps of everything. He kind of had to work his way up and beat out some of the other less good quarterbacks. But he did start putting some good tape together towards the end of the second half of the season. Towards the end, he's had pretty good quarterback rating. I think he'll have a lot more chance to gel with George Pickens, and also Deontay Johnson. Part of their offense was they just didn't go anywhere. Deontay Johnson didn't score a touchdown. I think Freiermuth picked up 1 or 2 touchdowns. I think with an improved offensive line, they've picked up a ton of dudes on the O line. They also got Darnell Washington as kind of their 6th lineman that they can plug in and just help block.
Yep.
I think there's a good chance that Kenny Pickett can improve a lot this coming year. He's put in the work this offseason. He's bulked up a little bit, so he's looking good. So I like the chances of him kind of breaking out next year.
Yeah, I can't disagree with this one as well. I mean, I think Kenny Pickett right now is like being ranked way too low when it comes to starting quarterbacks in the NFL. You got to think the Steelers' offensive line last year was absolutely horrendous, especially when it comes to a franchise who has been known to establish the run game. I mean, you just had everything go wrong for Kenny Pickett last year outside of like George Pickens. Like he had the wide receiver, he had the talent around him when it comes to receivers, but for a rookie quarterback to have a bad O-line, I mean, bad at pass blocking and not very good at run blocking either. And then you had your star running back that was dealing with the Liz Frank injury all season, who was running behind that terrible offensive line. Like that's just not a good formula for success. Like you got to have time, you got to have an established run game. So they'd have to stack the box more. They just can't drop everybody into coverage. I think Kenny Pickett is definitely due for a much better season. You saw the Steelers trade up for an offensive lineman in the draft. They obviously identified what their weaknesses were and are addressing them. So I definitely expect him to be solid this upcoming season. I think really all Steeler players are buy lows right now. I think Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, even Najee, like he hasn't dropped a ton in value, but like last season during this time, there was a lot of people that had him as a top 3 dynasty asset. Now he's like being put in the top 10 still, but I think we could see him come back up into the top 5 category discussion throughout the season because I think he's going to get a lot of touches. So I definitely like Kenny Pickett. I'm buying all the Steelers I can for cheap right now. So I agree with that one as well. And I chose a 2nd-year quarterback as well for my guy, and I chose Desmond Ridder. Now I know the knock on this is going to be, okay, the Falcons just drafted Bijan Robinson. They're going to establish, the run game and they're going to run through that run game. But I think Arthur Smith at this point has to know that he's going to be, if he does not have at least a decent season, like they don't have to go even positive, but if they don't get like 7 or 8 wins, his job might be gone because you now drafted 3 of the top offensive skill position players, 3 drafts in a row with Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and Bijan Robinson. Best tight end in his draft class, best wide receiver, considered best wide receiver in his class, best running back in his draft class. All first of their positions taken as well. If you can't get that offense rolling, his job is going to be gone. Like they're not going to give him a mulligan on Desmond Ridder at this point. His mulligan was given with Marcus Mariota. So he's going to have to drop back and pass more. I think Desmond Ridder is going to do He's a better passer than Mariota. He's going to do that. And even though the run game will be an important aspect in their offense, Desmond Ridder can run the ball as well. I would not be surprised if we see a decent amount of designed runs for him. So I think he has a really, really, really solid floor as a quarterback 2 option. Sure, he's got the quarterback 1 upside because he can run the ball. I'm not expecting that. I think that's unlikely. But I think we see Desmond Ridder carve out a decent role as a starting quarterback this season. I think people are really are just not buying him enough or not trying to trade for him. I'm trying to, if I've got a quarterback situation where I have like a mediocre quarterback 2 and maybe Desmond Ridder might be their second best quarterback, maybe I'm trying to improve at another position and then like trade quarterbacks because I'll take the upside of Desmond Ridder. So I don't know what your thoughts on him. I think I know that you were lower on Drake London this upcoming season because of, Arthur Smith's style of football. What are your thoughts on Desmond Ridder?
I think it's fair. I mean, he's definitely, you're not going to get him cheaper than he is right now. I think everyone kind of just didn't like the Atlanta offense last year, so they kind of just wrote him off. But there's, like you said, opportunities there. He's the starting quarterback. They have all the weapons in place, right? They got Pitts, London, Bijan can catch the ball. I think they'll still run a lot, but hey, I wouldn't mind picking him up for cheap if I could, because he, like you said, he is the starting quarterback, and he could continue being the starting quarterback if he proves himself. So. I don't blame you for that. I think it's decent. Kind of makes me think about one guy that has Ridder on his taxi squad. I might try to make an offer just to see if I can pick him up. I mean, I need some quarterback help there too. So, take a little flyer on him, make a little trade, and see if I can get him. So yeah, that's pretty good suggestion. I like that one.
Yeah, I'd be buying him more as a quarterback 3 option for now,
Yeah.
with the potential to be a quarterback 2. I'm not going to feel comfortable plugging him in every week right now, but I think I could see myself that being possible throughout the season because he does have that rushing upside. People kind of forget that, like in the preseason, he was running a lot and well. So it would be nice. Just copy and paste Tennessee projections to this team seems fair. Yeah. But Tennessee doesn't have nearly as enough skill position. Like I think the skill position players are a little bit better in Tennessee. But I do also think Trey Burks is due for a decent season as well. But I'm probably it's crazy. He was like so high touted in the community, and one bad season with not a very good situation has him kind of off people's radars. Another good buy candidate, but not on either of our list. All right, let's pivot over to running backs. So I see all 4 of the running backs we have chosen here are veteran players. So which veteran player would you like to talk about first?
I like AJ Dillon. I've been waiting for this guy forever. I always thought that he'd be the second coming of Derrick Henry. Huge quads, huge, massive dude, a little slower, but just built like a rock. And I love the way that Green Bay always talks about winter's coming. And even last season, he didn't put up great numbers during the first half or so. Towards the second half, like last stretch of 4 or 5 games, he was putting up double digits numbers. But I think people kind of sleep on him too, just because same thing for me. I drafted him pretty reasonably last year. I think 3rd, 4th round in redrafts and whatnot, and kind of just waited to see, when's he going to take over? He didn't take over. Aaron Jones still played a role, and it's kind of always been that split. I do think next year will be a little more leaning more towards AJ Dillon, and which is what they've kind of been doing a little bit. I think with Jordan Love in there, I think they want to protect their quarterback a little more, right? Just giving him the comfort of having a run game established, giving him a little more time in the pocket. I think next year will be the AJ Dillon's year. This will be the last time I can kind of hope for him. But yeah, that's my sleeper. I think if he breaks, he's got to do it next year, or I'm out on him, unfortunately.
I don't know. I mean, I've got AJ Dillon in a couple of leagues, and I will take him in a throwaway trade. It's not a guy I'm actively seeking to go for because, again, I think I was kind of higher on him the last 2 seasons, and like it's been disappointing both seasons. Yeah. Aaron Jones is still there this year. It would be super nice for him not to be there, but then everybody would be trying to get AJ Dillon. But I think, the Quadzilla was his nickname. He's a huge dude. Seems like he could just, bully people the whole game if he could keep up like that Derrick Henry pace where it's like all game he runs super, super hard because he's just so big and strong that eventually defenses wear down and he doesn't. But we haven't seen it yet, so I'm a little bit I don't mind AJ Dillon at all, but he's just not like a guy I'm personally actively seeing. But that might be just because I've also gotten burned on him. So fool me once, but he's already fooled me twice. So I think
I'm ready to be fooled the third time.
Yeah,
Let's see what happens.
Yeah. You know what? My first guy on this list has burned people for years, and that's Raheem Mostert. And his isn't really because of just opportunity. It's just because he gets hurt. Because when he's on the field and healthy, the dude is he's electric. He's the fastest guy on the field. Even at 31 years old, he's probably faster than everyone except maybe a Tyreek Hill on that offense, maybe Jalen Waddle, but Raheem Mostert was I believe a track star. Mm-hmm. So I really like him. I like the situation still because I know the Dolphins drafted a running back in this draft, but I really don't expect him to be like just take over. I think if Raheem Mostert's there and healthy, he's going to be the starting running back. I had the same exact projection last year. I know everyone's like, oh, Chase Edmonds is the guy. Raheem Mostert will just be a guy that gets in there when somebody needs. I was like, Raheem Mostert is the best running back on that team. If he's healthy, he's going to eventually take over, and he did. I think when he's established himself as a valuable enough asset to continue number one production there at the running back position, but it will be split carries. I don't see him getting 20 plus touch carries. I think you're going to see more in the 12 to 15 range. But with the Dolphins being as high powered as they are, those could be very, very valuable touches. He's got decent touchdown upside on that team. So I like him as a more of a flex option, not a running back too. But I think it's one of those guys that you could just get thrown in a deal. Like people are just like valuing him as a 31-year-old running back. But this last season was probably the healthiest he stayed, and he the oldest he's obviously been in the season. He's got hurt his whole 20s. So guy I'm trying to get thrown in a lot of trades, especially in the draft. Like say you got like the 2-6 and one guy there, and they had the 2-9 or something, relatively close. Like, oh yeah, I'll take that and Raheem Mostert, because that's the guy I might be able to plug in my lineup. Who knows if any of these second round picks are guys that I'll be able to plug in my lineup when Raheem Mostert has showed he can be valuable to your fantasy lineup. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I've been burned by him too many times too in the past.
That's fair.
I'm excited. I like him. I love the speed, and I was like, all right, lock and loaded, put him in my RB2 slot, and then I'm just chasing injury after injury, trying to find replacement, and it was just too frustrating. I liked him a lot too, and then when he went to Dolphins and he put together a good, fairly solid season last year, kind of representative of his true usage. I think 12 to 15 carries, like you're saying. My only concern with this year is that even though with Devin Achane going there, I don't think Devin Achane's taking any carries away from Mostert. They play different roles. My concern is still with Dalvin Cook. I mean, just the rumors that I'm hearing, I don't know if it's true or not or false. I think with him and Mostert, there is a certain amount of overlap that if Cook were to be released and lands on the Dolphins,
it'd cripple his value.
And that's just my concern. To me, maybe I'm just reading too much into it and just believing this hype stuff. But to me, it seems possible. I think Vikings will let him go. Don't know his landing spot, but it was reports coming out after Devin Achane was drafted, which was shocking to me. I thought they got Achane, they're done in the running back room, but they kept wanting to add more. So I was kind of shocked. So that's my only that's one of my hesitations. And then the fact of the injury history kind of just keeps me away. But like I said, 12 to 15 carries for this guy is enough to be productive fantasy wise at the flex. He can get the 5 to 6 yards per carry. He has that elite long speed where he can break off a run and just take one to the house. So decent sleeper. If he can hold down his job like he did this past year, maybe, and he's obviously familiar with the system. I think he's decent. I'm just out on him just because of the injury history and possible Cook stuff looming.
Yeah, maybe you should wait to buy him for sure. See what happens with Dalvin Cook. I would definitely recommend that. I haven't read too much into Dalvin Cook outside of him potentially being released, but that landing spot makes sense. It makes sense and it doesn't because the Dolphins are going to be in a stranglehold financially. I mean, isn't Waddle and Tua going into their fourth year? So I guess the year if Tua doesn't produce, he's gone. I would imagine. They could try and bring in a veteran because of that roster. They could definitely be Super Bowl contenders if they got if Aaron Rodgers was there, that'd be Super Bowl contenders. So they could look to add some sort of veteran presence. I don't know. There's not really many other older veteran quarterbacks that could, I guess, take you to the Super Bowl like Aaron Rodgers left in the league. But yeah, I guess they could potentially move on from Tua after this season, because if they're going to pay Dalvin Cook because he's going to want more than a 1-year deal, Waddle's going to want paid, Tyreek's getting paid. You got all these Jalen Ramsey's a cap casualty now, so will be interesting to see how the Dolphins financially maneuver through these next couple of years for sure. Jump into your second
one. So this one's kind of a known name a little bit, and people probably been following it. Is Samaje Perine? He got signed by the Broncos. Apparently, have a lot of Broncos love. But the obvious thing with Samaje Perine that everyone knows about is that Javonte Williams has been injured. He massive. He had his torn ACL, but he also had MCL injury, LCL. I think he had all sorts of stuff happen with his knee. Something more like the J.K. Dobbins injury. So we saw J.K. Dobbins, even though he came back, he was just in and out of the games. I see Samaje Perine the same way. He might be able to take the first few games, be the ball carrier, primary back for however many games it takes for Javonte to come back. I think there's a good chance that Samaje could just run with the job. I mean, at least for this year, maybe in the future. He was specifically called by Sean Payton to join the team. Sean was like, "Hey, we want you on this team. We know you have the certain skill set that we want. We want you on our team." So Samaje could have stayed with Cincinnati, but he joined the Broncos on Sean Payton's on his pitch to him. And we saw what Samaje did in the games that Mixon missed. He was running the ball 10 to 20 times, 15 to 20 times, catching 7-6 balls and putting up RB1 numbers. So I can see something similar for him, obviously in the early get-go when he's with the Broncos. But even with Javonte Williams coming back, Javonte wasn't drafted by Sean Payton. He's been a holdover. I felt like Melvin Gordon always kind of wrestled away some of the carries from Javonte. So it makes me question Javonte overall. That I think, if Samaje gets plugged in, they get off to a hot start, they might just run with him. So, he's not a total sleeper because people do have him on the radar, but I think it's a little more than that. It's, we're looking beyond just the first few games that Javonte misses. I think he can continue on. So he's one of the sleepers I picked. I don't know what you thought about Samaje. Does he qualify as a sleeper to you? Is it, where does he feel like?
I would think so, because I really didn't think too much about it, because I think Javonte is this situation could be so much like the DeAndre Swift one. Now that you say this, that Javonte, this is his, it's not like he's had repetitive injuries. He was healthy his first year. I think they kind of just wanted to do a 50-50 backfield. Unfortunately, he gets hurt the second year with a terrible knee injury, but I think he's by far more talented than Samaje Perine, even though I do like Samaje. I thought the Bengals should have had him over Joe Mixon the whole season, because he did everything as good, if not better. He was a better receiving back than Joe Mixon. He might have been not as good of a harder runner, but I don't think it was enough to really split the difference. Like, I think that he made up for that in the passing game, that he should have been their every down back. But he could take over, because as someone that likes Javonte Williams a lot, I really would not want them to rush him back. We've seen now too many times when they try and get these running backs back on the field too fast, they re-injure stuff. Like, he needs to be weaned back in. And if for some reason the Broncos are hot in a tough division, they could just roll with the hot hand, which could be Samaje Perine. And we could see Javonte Williams, a super talented back, potentially, get frustrated with that and one out. And that would be, I think that's a win for everybody. Like, we saw DeAndre Swift get moved this offseason. I think it's a win for DeAndre Swift. Everybody that liked Gibbs pre-draft, that might not like the landing spot right away because Swift was there, and then he gets traded, and it's a win. It's a win for everybody except Dallas Cowboy fans, of course. So I think Javonte is a guy to buy too. But he's not a sleeper, obviously. So yeah, Samaje Perine, you kind of just put him on my radar a little bit. I'll see. I know somebody else that has him that's like real big on him. Oh, Samaje is going to be real good the first 4 weeks. I'm like, yeah, but we'll see after that. But It makes sense. It might be over half the season. So definitely good to hear that. I didn't know that Sean Payton called him personally too. So that's good information as well. That's why you guys should like and subscribe, hit the notification bell. You learn something new every day. Even me that's on the show hosting it learns something new every day. Speaking of DeAndre Swift, I guess his old team, I should say, I got David Montgomery on my list. Okay, I know rookie fever is in full effect right now, and Jahmyr Gibbs is the godsend at running back outside of Bijan Robinson in this weak running back draft class. Right now when it comes to fantasy, who knows what we'll say 2 years from now. But David Montgomery slides in my eyes, right where Jamal Williams was. He's a hard-nosed between the tackles runner, And it seems like the Lions get inside the 5-yard line all the time. I know last year they had like the most 1-yard touchdowns out of like any team last season. And if they get in situations like that again, I feel like Dan Campbell is that guy. He kind of reminds me of how like Belichick is as well. Like he doesn't care who the more talented running back is overall. He's going to put in the guy that's best suited for that situation. So if David Montgomery is a harder, bigger back, which he is than Jahmyr Gibbs when it comes to running between the tackles, he might be that guy that gets like a lot of touchdowns. Like he might only get 10 to 12 touches a game, but who knows how many of those touches are inside the 10-yard line. And it's not like David Montgomery also can't be effective in the pass game. It's not like he's known for it, but he might get a couple of targets as well. I think this is a guy, again, that you could get thrown into trade deals that people just are down on because now he's not the feature back on his team, and could be a solid flex option, or a guy that you plug in during bye weeks for your fantasy teams. What are your thoughts on David Montgomery? Do you think he takes over kind of the Jamal Williams type of role?
Yeah.
Or do you think it's like more Jahmyr Gibbs?
I think he takes over the Jamal Williams role and a little more. I think a lot of people. I was definitely amazed and surprised that the Lions picking up Jahmyr Gibbs at 12 overall, and people are thinking that he's going to get like huge workload or anything. I still see like the primary ball carrier. If you want a true running back, it's going to be David Montgomery. If the Lions want to establish the run, if they want to get the run game going, it's going to be David Montgomery. I mean, I think Jahmyr Gibbs will definitely get some carries. I think he'll be used a lot in the passing game, and he will be a dominant force within the Lions. But don't discount David Montgomery. I think people that took a disc that kind of knocked him down when Jahmyr Gibbs signed, and they're like, oh man, David Montgomery's toast. I think this kind of a pretty good opportunity to maybe take advantage of that little price dip, in my opinion, because I think he's still going to be holding a pretty good position. I mean, we still got to know Jahmyr Gibbs is talented, but he's still a rookie. Still needs to learn the system. There were always a lot of knocks on him before the draft just because of his weight and size. A little smaller, not that much smaller, but smaller than your traditional running back. So, there's still a little bit of room with David Montgomery. You got a nice floor. They're going to keep scoring those touchdowns. I think the offense has improved a lot. I think they were 4th overall. So there's definitely fantasy points to be had. Even if Jahmyr Gibbs gets his share, I think David Montgomery will get his share as well, and then some, which will be more than what the Bears put up. So I liked it. I like it. I'd be buying too if I could here and there. I haven't really had the chance, but I'm looking for David Montgomery here and there too. The people that own him in my league, they kind of like him too. They like he's a lunchbox guy, really just grinds out the yards. It's good. Doesn't create any scenes off the field. So, it's really, really stable running back. So it's hard to prime away. Yeah.
Could be similar to like how LeGarrette Blount was at the end of his career with New England. Like just gets like a lot of he might not get a ton of PPR work, and we saw Jamal not get it. And the more I think about it, like if you look at the receiving threats that the Lions have, it's literally just Amon-Ra now, because Jameson Williams is on a 6-game suspension. Sam Laporta is a rookie. I don't even know who their number 2 receiver is right now, to be honest. Like it's probably Reynolds. I bet Reynolds is their number 2 receiver right now. So Jahmyr Gibbs might be lined up in the slot.
Yeah.
Cool. He's on the field, but who's going to be lined up in the backfield? That's David Montgomery. So it's cool that they're both on the field. I think like both owners could be happy in that situation. So yeah. Colin Gilbert even said in here, Gibbs is the wide receiver number 2. And I wouldn't be surprised if he was number 2 in receptions on the team at the end of the year. Yeah. That would not surprise me whatsoever. So David Montgomery, now that I said 10 to 12 touches, now I'm thinking more of like 12 to 17. Like I really think that he gets in around roughly 15 touches a game. Might have to be some trades I send after this.
We're gonna be busy, yeah.
Yeah, I do that all the time too.
Yeah.
All right, let's pivot over to some wide receivers. Go ahead and talk about your first wide receiver.
Oh, man, I'm embarrassed to name this one. I don't like him at all.
This is insane that if it's the first one on your list, this is insane that we're considering him a sleeper now.
Yeah,
it
right.
Really is.
Number 1 wide receiver, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, had like I want to say like felt like 8 years of just injuries, playing 1 or 2 games, put up really good games when he did play. But I think a lot of it, we'll name a guy, it's Michael Thomas. He had a really good career with Drew Brees, played really well, and then just hit an injury wall where he just got constant injuries. I think he had some sort of, issues with the team too, where he instead of getting surgery like early in the offseason, he waited to like August in one of the years. I think it was just a little bit of dysfunction. I think if I were him, I feel like his sense was, we don't have Drew Brees. This team isn't going anywhere. I got paid. I'm not gonna put in the work. I mean, I'm not trying to discount his character, but that's kind of the sense that I got. And then I feel like with this year, he kind of I think he's finally recovered. He's wanted to make the effort to come back. I think he likes the team. I think he wants to really show himself a little bit. So I do like MT. I don't know how long his career will be in dynasty wise, but if you can squeeze out 1 or 2 years, and if that 1 or 2 year could be something like maybe 90-80% of what he was doing with Drew Brees, I'd love it. So, and he's one of those guys that totally sleep. No one's paying attention to him. There's some, some people might look at him a little bit, but they're like, this guy's still injured. What's going on with him? So, yeah, he's one guy that I don't really like either, just because of all the injury and stuff and all the character issues. I'm not fond of, but man, when he's just taken for dead, and he was a number 1 wide receiver, number 1 in dynasty, I'll take a shot on him and see if he can put together 1 or 2 more good years.
Yeah, I love Michael Thomas still. Like, would it really shock us to see him outproduce Chris Olave this year? I don't think so. I mean, we saw how he started just 2 weeks off last year. I mean, he started last year like he left off. Like, he came in and had like 2 20-point or like 15 plus games. Like, he didn't get it single digits in the few games that he played. He looked like he was back to healthy. And then unfortunately just got hurt again. And I know it was like a big loss for the team, and this division's winnable again. So yeah, there's incentive to be good again for him. But I really don't think it's a far cry to think that he could outproduce Chris Olave this year, who I have as a top 10 dynasty wide receiver. And that wouldn't bother me. Both of these guys could finish off really good seasons. Derek Carr is more than capable of feeding two guys fantasy values. So Colin even put some stuff in here. Michael Thomas's money is fully guaranteed next 3 years, so no, can't save money cutting him. And he wants to get him going. Question is how bad he wants to get going versus collecting checks. I think that the way the team handled his injury and was indicative of the way he responded to that surgery that you mentioned. So there were rumors like on Breeze's last year, they wanted to try and, obviously make a Super Bowl run. And he's like, was telling them, I can't play. Like my foot is like killing me, and or ankle or whatever it was. And like, they were basically like pressuring him to play. Like, it's like they cared more about, production than they did the person. And I think he just did not take that well. And I think that he hurt it even more to where it needed surgery, where it wouldn't have needed surgery if he would have just sat out and let it heal. So I think that's kind of like, that's how that all played out. And it just obviously caused some issues with him and Sean Payton and everything. So the situation was crappy. And it's funny that I say that because like, I was just listening to a podcast earlier today of Derek Wolfe and Joe Rogan. If you haven't heard it, it's awesome. But he was even saying like the NFL, like teams and organizations, they don't care about your health. Like they want you out there and they want you playing. So I felt like, that he felt that way and he didn't like it. Like he's he's a person, you should be treated, like his health should be number one. So I understand that. So I think he wants to get going again. I really do. I don't think he wants to go out on a bad note. I don't think he wants to be like a 1 or 2 year wonder like he was. I think he wants to be go out on top how he was in the prime of his career. And we've seen these wide receivers play very well in their 30s. We just saw Devontae Adams play well at 30. DeAndre Hopkins for half a season looked very good. So they can do it. And I think he can. He just has to get healthy back on there. If you can get him thrown in deals, well, that's a huge deal, especially if you're a contender. Definitely a guy I'd be looking to target on my team. I got a veteran guy on here too. Probably cheaper, won't give you the potential Michael Thomas could, but I like Adam Thielen this upcoming season. Again, I think this is a guy you just get like thrown into deals. Like people want to trade up, and it's insane how many trades happen in rookie drafts, especially in dynasty leagues. Like people just trying to move up 3 or 4 picks, and it's like if you value some of these guys pretty close, like get some of these veteran guys thrown in there. That could be assets in your roster, especially if you're potentially a contender. Adam Thielen isn't going to help you if you're rebuilding. I'll tell you that right now. There's no point in getting him unless you can get him for cheap and try and flip him throughout the season. Cool. But even then, it's probably going to be hard. If the contender's wanting another piece, they're probably going to want someone that's really putting up numbers. But Adam Thielen could easily carve out himself the number 1 wide receiver role. with the Carolina Panthers. I mean, Jonathan Mingo is a rookie, so who knows how quickly he's going to catch on. DJ Chark Jr. I think we know what he is at this point. He's just a speedy receiver that can make big plays, but he's not a guy that's going to be he's not going to be a guy that's like doing the whole route tree and finessing it like Adam Thielen can. So I really like him. I think he's a really good value. So what are your thoughts on Adam Thielen with the Carolina Panthers?
Yeah, when we were preparing our sleeper list, he was one guy that I was thinking about adding, and I saw you added him, so I was like, oh, okay, I'll let Bryce have that one. I'll try to find someone else. I like Adam Thielen a lot too. Like you said, he's one of those vets. I think he did lose a step a little bit last year, and he's slowing down a little bit. But I mean, this is being compared to Justin Jefferson kind of across the way, and he's just super uber elite talent. Adam Thielen lands in a great spot. He has a rookie quarterback, so the veteran presence is always kind of nice. Also, there's a whole shakeup, like you said, who's going to become the wide receiver number one there? Before Mingo, I thought it would be Thielen too. I mean, Chark is younger, a little more athletic maybe, but he's just been injured for so long that I don't think he can do it. I mean, they were talking about wanting to develop his route tree, but I think that was much more coach speak. I mean, at this point in his career, I think DJ Chark, we know where he's at. So Thielen seemed more like he could be the wide receiver number one. With Mingo coming in there, I think it puts a little more pressure in terms of, or makes it a little less clear that Adam Thielen is number one, but he still could be. He may be a little less productive. Jonathan Mingo's athletic, but he's still a little unpolished. He still needs to work on everything that he just doesn't have it. Where Adam Thielen, he has all the skills. He's a great route runner. I think young quarterbacks love good veteran wide receivers.
The young quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah, the young quarterback. He knows exactly, you like the veterans, they know where they're supposed to be. They're going to be in their spots. They're going to be opens. He might not be, ripping off huge catches or anything, but third down and any of those red zone plays, I think there's a good opportunity. So I like Adam Thielen a lot. He's a great sleeper.
Yeah, we have to address this. This is wild to me. First ever time playing Dynasty. Welcome to the community. Hey, while we're about to answer this question, join our Facebook page, RotoHeat Dynasty Fantasy Football. Dude, you could ask this question in there too, and you'll get plenty of answers. But I think you're going to get a resounding yes. You need to accept this trade like immediately, like before this guy realized what he's doing is completely wrong. Because like that's Bijan Robinson there at the 101, and the 103 is, I don't know, probably not. Maybe Anthony Richardson, maybe Stroud, maybe Young, maybe JSN. But yeah, you got to take that's the best deal I've seen for the person getting the 101. Yeah, that's an instant accept. Like I wouldn't even think about it.
Trevor, you gotta agree. Trevor, you get an excuse. You could leave the stream right now and go ahead and hit accept, and then join us right back.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a no-brainer, Trevor. You have to accept that immediate. For example, I had the 102 in a super flex league. I traded the 102, the 202, and the 204 for the 101, and I think I got good value. Yeah, so I was pumped. Yeah. I was pumped for that. So this is way less than that. Yeah, you got to accept. Cool. Alrighty, back to the wide receiver. Go ahead and talk about your second wide receiver.
Second wide receiver is Sky Moore, second-year breakout. I think he had a rough first year. He had fumbles. He muffed a couple punts, got intercepted a couple times. Just had a really rough beginning, and just kind of spelled downhill for the entire first year. But what he put on college tape was awesome. I mean, I think he's a great route runner. He's one of the best route runners. Has good yards after the catch ability. But I think the speed of the game and just adjusting to NFL life was a little difficult, just based off of what I've read and seen, that maybe he just didn't quite catch up. And that used to be a big problem with a lot of the first-year wide receivers and everyone coming in. They were always traditionally you were waiting for a year 2 or year 3 wide receiver breakouts back in the days. You'd let your wide receiver sit a year, and he kind of fits that trajectory. I think first year is kind of learning the ropes, figuring out the NFL. You're playing with one of the best quarterbacks in the league. It's really kind of hard to adjust. I think having put in a second year of adjusting to NFL life, vacated targets, right? They have no more McColl. They have no more Juju. They'll still have Kelsey, but who's going to be the receiver behind Kelsey? Is it going to be the new guy, Rashee Rice? Is it going to be Tony? My money's on Sky Moore. Rashee Rice is a different wide receiver. He's more of a contested catch guy, a little bigger, good for the red zone. I think, Sky Moore, that's not where he shines. He shines in the open field, slots, kind of the short catch and run, nice little routes. And then Kadarius Toney, he just seems like he can't stay healthy. He had a lot of trouble. I don't know if it was purposely having trouble learning the New York Giants playbook. He just couldn't grasp it. So I'm kind of curious to see if he has the motivation and if he'll all put it together and stay healthy enough to be the number one wide receiver for the Chiefs. I feel like it's going to be, again, Mahomes just going to throw it around to everybody. Someone's got to pick up those targets, and I like Sky Moore the best out of all those. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at with him.
But before I answer, he clarified. So this is the starting draft. So it'd be the 303, obviously different values. So I guess the question is 101, I think Mahomes, right? It's Mahomes.
Yeah, easily.
So the 3 pick, that's just like, who is the number 3 pick? For me, number 2 pick is Joe Burrow. So I don't know who the number 3 pick is. Do I value
Hurts and other one of those?
Yeah, Hurts, Allen, probably one of those two for a lot of people. You could argue Jefferson as well. So it's like, then who's fallen in the 3rd round? That's where it's like, you know what? Let me quickly look up ADP real quick because, we just have to, decide, is that tier of Mahomes and that quarterback more than
Allen in like a 3-3.
Yeah, Allen in the 3 and whatever. See Dynasty rankings here. Okay, so Fantasy Pros. Obviously, it's not on Superflex. Let me put it on that. So in the 3rd round, let's say we're picked 31 or 32. So we're seeing players like Mark Andrews, Devonta Smith, Travis Kelce, Austin Eckler, Pollard, Josh Jacobs, Drake London, guys like that. So are you willing to take Jalen Hurts, and would you trade Jalen Hurts and Devonta Smith for Pat Mahomes? I guess is the question.
Yeah, I think speaking from the brain, I think it's probably better to take the 103 and 303. But for me, I play Dynasty because I like it. I enjoy it. Sometimes I don't pick the best outcomes. I'm probably going to go with Mahomes. I just like the guy too much. I think he's rock solid. There's no questions about what he's going to do for the next 7-8 years. 3-3 is tempting, and Hurts, or if you want to go Burrow at the 3 spot. I just think Mahomes is just so much more locked in that I'd rather just go with that. And
you probably got a decade of not worrying about QB1. Now, what I would try and do, I'd probably take Mahomes still. But what I would try and do is I would can I get your 6th round pick instead? Throw in your 6th.
Yeah.
Because if I look at the players in the late 6th, you're getting guys like DeAndre Swift down there, Miles Sanders, Cam Akers, Quentin Johnston, Jamison Williams. Maybe try and get his 6th round pick thrown in with it. So then you're at least replacing your 3rd round pick with maybe obviously a much lower tier maybe not as proven player or unproven player to at least help that loss of the player that you would get, that you're losing a starter, a pretty, your 3rd best starter essentially at that pick. So that's what I would try and do. If you
think that's smart.
If not, then you could, you keep going down rounds. If he's I'm not going to give any picks, then maybe just be okay, I'll accept. But try to get some more if you can.
Yeah.
Try and get an even amount of picks in the trade. So
good advice. Yeah.
Thanks for the question, Trevor. So yeah, Sky Moore. I think Kadarius Toney is going to be the guy behind Travis Kelce, but that still doesn't mean I think Sky Moore is going to be involved. I've just seen too many reports of Toney is going to be utilized more. He had a very, very good game in the Super Bowl. I don't know if he scored, but he had the really, really good punt return. He was used as a Swiss Army knife, and it looks like he's going to be continued to be used that way. Even on offense, I could see him getting little pop passes to him, quick screens, because I think he's electric with the ball in his hands. So I think they're going to try and get it to him, similar to how they used to use Tyreek. But with that being said, I still like Sky Moore. I think he is still a buy low. I mean, I got offered an early 2nd for him. I still preferred that early 2nd personally, but I would definitely trade a late 2nd for him, mid to late 2nd for him easily. Just because he has that potential. He got a year of the offense under his belt. And I think the big thing is he just needs to change his number. I hate the number 24 for a wide receiver. It's just so strange to me. But I think his opportunities are going to be open more this season with losing Juju Smith-Schuster. I think Kadarius Toney comes in as the best wide receiver option, and Sky Moore gets more opportunity as the wide receiver too. So I think he's a solid sleeper because I think that his price is as low as it will go. Like I can't imagine it goes any lower because it's pretty low right now, and has sky high potential. My last wide receiver, it seems like these transition well. My next wide receiver was obviously the Kansas City Chief. I got Juju Smith-Schuster on here. Now, the first thing people say is, how do you go from Pat Mahomes to Mac Jones and increase in value? Which I think Juju's value is higher than it. I would rather have him this year than I would last year. And it's the same thing that happened to Tyreek Hill, and it's going to be usage. Tyreek Hill goes to the Dolphins and has his best year in yards and receptions statistically, because he was utilized more. I think we're going to see the same thing with Juju Smith-Schuster in the sense of I just don't know if there's really anyone else more talented to throw the ball to. Kendrick Bourne is still there, but what's going to be his role? Is Tyquan Thornton going to be a much better player this upcoming season? I could see him as a big play guy, but I think your nitty gritty guy that gets 10 potential targets a game is Juju Smith-Schuster. I just think that we're going to see an older style. We're going to continue to see the same style that Patriots used to run with Bill O'Brien, and that's the short pass game. And I think Juju is the one that thrives in that situation. So it comes down just to basically his usage for me. Do you think Juju's got more value than last year?
Yeah, that was a good point. Yeah, I was going to say he probably does have more value than last year. I think, with Mahomes spreading out the ball, he still averaged about 800 yards, I think, which is really good. But I think, like you said, he's going to be more of the focal point with the Patriots. And the point that I didn't consider was just the impact that Bill O'Brien will have, and the fact they probably are going to be emphasizing the short pass, which is what Juju's done a little better at. And he probably doesn't have the wheels like he did during his first year, but he's still pretty quick. He's still pretty athletic and physical, that he can do well. I do like him more than I do like him last year. I used to be really sky high on Juju first year coming out and stuff. So it's hard for me to kind of get back on the bandwagon, but I do like him with the Patriots, and I think he'll do much better than he did with the Chiefs.
Yeah. I can't lie, I nailed Juju. I said when Antonio Brown's gone, Juju's not going to do as good. Like I just didn't think he was suited to be a wide receiver 1. I think he's best suited as a wide receiver 2 still. But I think his usage with the Patriots will null the effect that him being the best option to throw the ball. I think they'll find ways to get a lot of quick screens to him for sure. All right, well, we're running out of time a little bit, so we'll quickly go through some of these tight ends. So go ahead and talk about both of your tight ends, and then I'll talk about them.
Just quickly. One of my tight end sleepers is Gesicki. He had a down year last year with the Dolphins, where he was a bad fit offensively. The 2 years prior, he was a top 10 tight end, top 12 tight end in PPR leagues. So he definitely is athletic. He can catch the ball. He's had good seasons. They just didn't utilize him with Miami. So I do like the New England Patriots landing spot. They always run the 2 tight end personnel. So I'm looking forward to seeing if he can get back up to those numbers. I don't know if he can get back to when he was 800 and like 6 touchdowns, 800 yards, 6 touchdowns, but he could still put a dent in it and still be reliable. Just kind of a decent tight end to have in that spot. So I like him. And then the second tight end that I have is Chig Okonkwo. He was timed 2 years ago as the fastest tight end during the combine, which is really cool. He was running 4.5 when you see Dalton Kincaid, he's running 4.7. I think Mayer's running 4.74, kind of like that. So considerably faster than a lot of the other tight ends that you can kind of compare with and that we've seen right now. And let's face it, I mean, Brad kind of mentioned it too. Titans have no one to catch the ball either. They don't have anyone to throw the ball either. But I mean, Treylon Burks, and then behind him, who do you have? Kyle Phillips, Westbrook Akine, just question marks. People are talented. So I like Chig Okonkwo. He started putting it on towards the end of last season as well. So I'm continuing to see, hopefully he'll get a better chance this year with the Titans and have a good role. I mean, I think Derrick Henry obviously will be the main offensive focal point, but if they need to throw the ball, if Treylon Burks isn't there, or if he's covered too much, Chig has a chance to catch some balls too. So
yeah, these are both guys I really debated on putting on the list. I didn't want to put Gesicki on there because I would have put 3 Patriot players on the list. That would have been too many, but I like him as well too. And we saw what Hunter Henry did. He was a top tight end. Outside of his injuries, he was putting up good numbers with the Chargers, and he comes to the Patriots and has his best season. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Mike Gesicki have his best season with the Patriots this upcoming year. Mac Jones does like to throw it to the big body tight ends, especially in the red zone. So I really do like Mike Gesicki all throughout the field. I mean, it's not like they only utilize him in the red zone, and the opportunity for him to be on the field is pretty high. We saw Hunter Henry regress this past season. So I think that we're going to see that again, to where Gesicki easily comes in as the number one tight end on that team. It would not surprise me to see him lead the team in targets either. Like, I think he and Juju are going to be target leaders this season for them.
It'd be kind of funny to see. I'm looking forward to the Mac Jones Gesicki gritty off or whatever.
Oh, that would be super cool, funny.
Yeah.
People would hate that, but it would be funny for me.
Two ugliest gritties, but it'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, and then Chig, I was gonna put him on my list, but it's like I didn't know if he's a sleeper now. I feel like people are waking up on him. I think he was a sleeper. He definitely was a guy that was a sleeper this last season. But dude's talented, and he's been vocal this offseason too. So I think that's why people are waking up. Like, he said that he's going to put up crazy. He said, I'm definitely the number one tight end in this room, or something like that. So he's getting people to notice him, and rightfully so, because he is a freak athlete. And like you said, who else is there to throw the ball to? I can't even name the number 2 receiver for the Titans. Like, it's that bad. I was kind of surprised. I like that they drafted Will Levis, but I almost looked like they were potentially tanking for one of these top quarterbacks this next year, with not really addressing a lot of stuff in the offseason. They addressed O-line, and that's usually what you do. I feel like when you're trying to rebuild, you get O-line first and maybe quarterback later. I still like Will Levis, but seems like everybody else is down on him, including Titan fans, which is strange. Maybe they're burned on Malik Willis, I guess, who looks like he might be finding a new home this offseason. Yeah. So I definitely like Chig as well. My tight ends, Irv Smith Jr. as a sleeper, and I've got Conklin on there as well. Irv Smith Jr., I really expected the Bengals to address tight end in the draft, and they didn't, which leads me to believe that Irv Smith Jr. is coming in, and is coming in as the starter. This dude's career has been absolutely derailed by injuries. I don't think there's much of a question that the talent is there. It's just opportunity hasn't been there because he hasn't been healthy. If he can stay healthy an entire season on the Bengals roster, we'll see him put up solid tight end numbers. I'm not expecting him to be top 5 by any means, but I feel like he could be a guy that you feel comfortable starting in your lineup every week. I mean, there's some lineups where, I'm forced to start Noah Fant every week, and I still don't really feel comfortable with it. He's a starting tight end that seems on the field a lot. Irv Smith Jr., it will now be I feel like their values are relatively similar in my eyes. People aren't perceiving it that way, to where you could get this guy. And now, I mean, his touchdown upside is obviously the highest of any other tight end in the league, because of the offense he's in, outside of maybe Travis Kelce, obviously. But being on the Bengals offense, touchdown opportunity is going to be there. We saw Hayden Hurst do not too bad with them. But I think Irv Smith Jr. is way more talented than him. I think he's a guy that I'm definitely trying to buy this offseason to plug in my lineups before it's too late. And then Conklin. Obviously, we've seen Aaron Rodgers try to utilize tight ends in Green Bay. It just seems like they don't really get the best tight ends to utilize for him. I think Conklin is a guy that was doing pretty well with Mike White and Zach Wilson throwing him the ball. So I'm pretty sure Aaron Rodgers is a good upgrade from those two guys. So Tyler Conklin might find himself in a good situation as well, especially with Garrett Wilson demanding a lot of attention, along with Alan Lazard probably going to get a decent amount as well, with him and Rodgers having that chemistry from their time in Green Bay. Conklin might be a sneaky guy that gets because obviously Rodgers can read through the progression. Might be a sneaky guy to get a lot of production this year. What are your thoughts on Irv Smith Jr. and Tyler Conklin?
So Conklin, yeah, I haven't thought about it, but yeah, I mean, Rodgers tends to do very good on his reads, and he does utilize his tight ends when they've been there. Tanyan had a great year and whatnot, so that's pretty good sleeper. And I liked Conklin before when he was on the Vikings for a short period. I was like, oh, he might break out. Went on the Jets.
2 Vikings, didn't I? I had 2 Vikings on there.
And then on the Jets, he did pretty good and he was solid. And I was like, okay, great. So yeah, I think like you said, he'll be someone that you can plug in and feel comfortable with, and kind of see where Conklin goes. Irv Smith, the injuries just got to me on that one too. I just haven't followed his career. Just, I know that he was super talented coming out, but just didn't get on the field very much because of opportunity. So when he got signed with the Bengals, I kind of see him as a Hayden Hurst plus, and I think you kind of referred to it too. Just with Jamar Chase, Boyd, and Higgins still there, I feel like it's hard to come by with target share, and I think Hayden Hurst kind of suffered the same deal. Irv Smith is a little better than I think he's better than Hayden Hurst. So he may be able to take away some target share, but I think those 3 wide receivers just much better and just been in the system longer. That don't I tend to stay away from Irv Smith just because I just don't know. It's too big of a question mark for me.
Yeah, I don't see him getting more than like 6 to 8 targets a game at best. But if 2 of those targets are touchdown potential, it's better. It's like once you get outside the top 5, they're all kind of clumped together.
Yeah.
So who do I think could maybe get to the front of that clump? And I guess he's one of those guys, just because I feel like when you get guys like that, it's just like who's in the best situation, right?
Yeah.
Outside of because you're the most talented are always at the front, but then it's like who's in the best situation is what separates the next tier. Is what it seems like.
I agree.
All right, well, that's it for the show today. Thank you guys for joining in. We're getting closer to season, so we're getting a lot more questions in here, which is great. Definitely makes our time go by a lot faster filling in with some of these guys. So thank you, Brad, Trevor, Colin, Infinite Possibilities for tuning in, you guys. Again, like, subscribe, the YouTube channel, hit the notification bell, join the Facebook page, RotoHeat Dynasty Dynasty Fantasy Football. Join in there, ask questions. Great group of people, and we will see you guys next week.
Thank you guys.